Hi Circlets, it's Michelle Kovac, and I have a little video tutorial to share with you today. Once again, I am in my very messy craft room, and it is nighttime, so I apologize for the poor lighting. But I have had a lot of questions from you asking me how I ink and glitter my projects. So I am going to show you that today so that we can make this little bee card that I have for you. So hopefully you will pick up some tips and hopefully not be too disappointed in the way I do it, because there's really not a lot to it. So let's get to it. Thanks. One of the questions I get asked a lot is how I ink my projects. One way that I do that is I use Memento Rich Cocoa ink, and I also use a sponge that I purchased from Stamping Up. This one's been used a lot, so it's really soft, and the softer it is, the better coverage you will get. Sometimes when the sponges are new, they kind of give you lines and it's not a smooth coverage. So you really want to beat up your sponge and then hold on to it. Okay, so I'm done with the beehive and I have thoroughly inked it. I'm going to go ahead and take one of my bee pieces, and I'm going to do the same thing with him. I just kind of dip my sponge in there and ink him up. Okay, I've also inked the other parts of the bee. I've done that, and I've also inked the vellum just to give it a little bit of depth. I'm also going to go ahead and ink his little yellow stripes and spots. So the same thing, just kind of squish it into the ink and go all the way around. You can tell that my hands get very dirty, so that's why I never have nice nails. Okay, the second question I get asked a lot is how I glitter my projects. And again, you might be a little disappointed to know that it's really, really easy. The first thing I use is Glossy Accents. This is the brand that I use, Ink Samples. I also use Martha Stewart's Crystal Coarse Glitter. That's my favorite. It's the kind of glitter I use on just about every single project I have. So all I need to do is take my Glossy Accents, and I'm going to kind of squirt it on here. The nice thing with these Glossy Accents is it's pretty precise, so I just kind of fill in his wings like I'm painting. Okay, once he's filled in, I just realized too that I actually made a little mistake, because his body is going to be covered, so I didn't have to cover that with glitter, but it's not going to matter because you're not going to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle my glitter. Not a very precise process at all. And then just kind of shake him off. And I'm going to put him to the side and let him dry. The thing with Glossy Accents is it does dry pretty fast, so you won't have to wait very long. I'm going to put him to the side. I'm going to go ahead, and I wanted to glitter his body parts. Sometimes I don't want the glitter to be real high and poofy, so sometimes I'll wipe a little excess off. Again, very messy, not precise at all. You can see there that I've wiped most of it off, and I'll just kind of use my excess glitter and glitter his body part. Okay, while my bee is drying, I don't want the Glossy Accents to smear. I'm going to go ahead and work on the other parts of the card. So I went ahead and I adhered my top layer to my card, which I'd cut on Wildcard 2. I love seam binding. I use it on a lot of my projects. I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow, because I want to kind of ground my bee to something, so I tend to use flowers and seam binding a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and tie my bow. On my original card over there, I used some black twine, and unfortunately I didn't have any more. So I do use a lot of this paper tray twine. That's my second favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that around the center and make a second bow. Okay, I've kind of messed around with my bow a little bit. I wanted the tails to go out this way instead of in a downward direction. And I also tied my twine around here and left the tails kind of long. I went ahead and I clipped my tails. You just kind of bend it in the middle and then sort of clip it on an angle so that you get that nice tail. I wanted to add just a few little dots. It just gives a little interest to the outside. I know a lot of you already do that. So I'm just going to do that to a few spots, just to make the edge a little more pronounced. Okay, so my beehive is finished. I'm going to put this to the side and go back to my bee. It should be dry by now. So I am going to go ahead and start layering my bee. Okay, I've already inked him. I do tend to use tacky glue for certain things. I don't know why. I think it's just a preference, especially if I have little fine things like this. I'll just kind of stick the glue in there. Again, it's not an exact science. I'm a slob when I craft. I am not neat at all. So I'm going to go ahead and stick him on the black paper. Okay, I want to go ahead and attach my vellum. I'm going to use a little bit of glue because you're not going to see it anyway. Of course, my glue does not want to cooperate. Just a little bit down the middle. You can use any adhesive, like I said, it's kind of a personal preference. I do use Vario from time to time as well, but for this I'm using tacky glue. Okay, and I wanted his wings to sort of pop up, so I'm kind of going to bend them. And that's why I didn't glue those down. Okay, the next thing I want to do is put his glittered wings on top. Okay, and I already went ahead and used dimensional foam circles, and I've already taken the backs off, so I'm going to go ahead and put him on. Make sure he's straight, and same thing, I'm going to kind of bend his wings up, and he's still a little bit wet. He's not completely dry yet. And then his last layer is the middle of his body, which is the black layer. So I'm also going to put that in the center. And then we have our dimensional bee. Okay, I went ahead and I'm going to add the bee parts here, okay, little center, and I've already added my tacky glue to it. A little crooked here. And then the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to let him dry. And I do have a little bit of glue. I'll fix that in just a minute. I found these black pearls. They're from EK Success that I thought were perfect for his eyes. They kind of have a nice shine to them. There's one. And there's the other. And I'm going to go ahead and fix that glue before we attach them. Okay, it's time to attach the bee to the beehive. So I went ahead and I already put the dimensional circles on the back of him and peeled the top off. And I'm going to kind of put him in here, and my idea was that I wanted this knot of the bow to kind of go underneath his wing. So I'm going to go ahead and squish it in there a little bit, but I also want him centered on the beehive. So I'm going to kind of move him, and he looks about centered there. Okay, let's see. And then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of play around with the bow here until I get it the way I want it to be. Okay, for my sentiment I used this cute stamp set from my craft spot, and I went ahead and I stamped it already, and I just cut a strip using my paper cutter. Same thing, I took my very soft decrepit sponge and just kind of sponged all the way around. Okay, I like the banner look, so I tend to do that by hand. I know that it's, again, not perfect, and I'm certainly not a perfect scrapbooker or card maker by any means. So just to kind of have that banner look to it, and kind of ink inside there. And I decided that I wanted to slide this kind of underneath the bee so it's covering the knot of the bow, so that it looks something like this. And I'm going to curve it a little bit. So I do need to add a little bit of glue to that with my tacky glue. Okay, I went ahead and I attached my sentiment. I tucked it kind of underneath the bee so that it was covering the knot of the twine. And I also used a pop dot behind there just to give it, again, a little more depth. So that is my finished one. It does look slightly different than the first one I made. I tend to do that a lot. I'm not very good at mass producing cards. They seem to always turn out a little different. I do like the pop of black on this one. I definitely need to look for more black twine because I do like that. But there you go. Those are my two bee cards. I hope I answered your question on how to ink and how to glitter. Thanks a lot.